Hey class 6, welcome back to the chemistry class once again. So in our last class, what we have done, we have started a new chapter, that is the elements and the compounds. Now when we were talking about the elements and compounds, if you remember, we started talking by the matters. Now while doing that, we talked about the pure substances and the impure substances. Now let's recall what are the characteristics of the pure substances we have obtained. So pure substances were those kind of substances which have definite and uniform chemical compositions, right? And then it have to have definite physical and chemical properties, and those which cannot be split up into more simpler substances by any physical mean, right? So we cannot split them up so easily by the physical mean like filtration, sublimation, deposition, this kind of manner, right? Now when we were talking about the pure substances and impure substances, there is the characteristics which is very important, that is the uniform composition, right? Now those substances, say the pure substances which have uniform composition, they are also termed as what? They are also known as homogeneous substances. Okay, now this term homogeneous, let's break this term. This word homo means same. Okay, this means same. So homogeneous means similar composition. Alright, and those substances which have non-uniform compositions, they are called exactly the opposite of this word is heterogeneous. Heterogeneous substances. Hetero means different. Are we clear? So the substances which having uniform compositions are called homogeneous substances, and those of non-uniform compositions are called heterogeneous substances. Now let's talk about whether we can classify these pure substances into further any kind of thing or not. So from there we get, and rather we can say that the scientists obtain that these pure substances further can be divided into two substances. What are they called? They are called elements and the compounds. Now the question arises, based on what they have divided them. Both of them are pure substances, we understand that. Now based on what they have classified them, they definitely have some of the difference between them, right? So the difference, the basis on which they have been classified is the kind or type of atoms they are made up of. They are made up of. Now the kind of atom they are made up of, those are a bit in the difference from each other. Now how they are? Let's talk about the definition of elements. Okay, so elements are more or less, they are the purest. Okay, why they are purest? Because they are made up of only one kind of atom. Okay, so the first characteristic is they are formed of only one kind of atoms. Okay, they cannot be split into simpler substances. That is the character of the pure substance we have already read, by any physical and chemical method. Understand? Now let's take an example. Suppose a bar of iron is taken. Okay, so that bar of iron is formed of what? Iron. So when we are going to split those, or we are going to break those into more simpler, we are trying to break this iron into more simpler things to see whether what is the last what is the simplest unit of this bar? We will get that it is made up of only the iron atoms. Okay, so the basis of the element is atom. Atom is the smallest unit of element. Alright, because why? Because any kind of elements, they are solely made up of those kind of atom. If oxygen we are taking, oxygen is made up of only oxygen, that is the O. It is symbolized as O. So though the entire oxygen is formed of oxygen atom only, we are splitting up them and we are not going to get any kind of other substances, be it pure or impure, but we are going to get only that same one kind of substance. Alright, now talking about element, how many types of elements are there in our earth? Scientists have found out for now, till now, nowadays, it has been found that 118 type of elements are there present in our earth. From where we can, it has been found that about 92 elements were totally found from the nature, whereas 26 elements have been human made. Alright, so after that, let's talk about the compound. Compounds are made up of two or more elements chemically combined in a fixed proportion by mass. Now what that stands for? So compounds are formed of two or more elements chemically. Now don't forget, while talking about compound, we don't have to forget that it is also a pure substance. It is also a type of pure substance. So it has solely its own property. Got it? But when we are splitting it up in its fundamental level, we are going to get it is form of two or more elements, pure elements. That means these. Okay, so this is the fundamental element, and two or more of these formed of, and they interact among each other chemically by a fixed proportion by mass, and they react chemically to give rise to another substance. That is what we are calling compound, because they have solely different kind of chemical property or physical property of their own, which is different from the elements they are made up of. Okay, so for example, if we are taking water, okay, what is the formula of water? We have already known, that is H2O, right? Now when we are splitting up H2O, we are going to get oxygen and surrounded by two hydrogen atoms. Now see, they have been formed of in a definite proportion, right? In a definite proportion by mass, means each and every atoms like hydrogen and oxygen, both of this is the oxygen and this is hydrogen. H stands for hydrogen. Now both of these hydrogen and oxygen, they have their own mass, right? They have their own weight. These atoms have their own weight. So these two type of elements both are combined together in a fixed proportion. That is, there are two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. So it's in a fixed proportion. And while in a proportion by mass means in a proportion of 1:8, they'll put together to form water. Alright, so this is how we call the compound. Now, other than this, we are going to talk about the compound in our further classes. Now, today we were going to talk about the elements solely. Now, how many types of element can be? So let's see. Now, after the element and compound, the rough overview of element and compound, we have to know how many types of elements are there in our nature. Now, according to that, there are 4 types of elements. What are they? Metal, non-metal. Why metal and non-metal? I am saying first because both of them are strikingly opposite to each other. Just like a brother and sister, they are opposite to each other in general. Like that, on metal and non-metal, they are exactly opposite to each other. Other than this two, there are another two. Another one is metalloid and the noble gas. So metalloid, why metalloid is smarter? Why it is smarter? Because it contains both the character of what? Metal and a non-metal. Okay, and the noble gases, they are very, like, they are carefree type of element. Why? Because they does not react with anyone, they does not react chemically with any other element, and these kind of elements, they are very rare in our nature. That's why they are also called the rare gases. Okay, now what are their examples? First, I am starting from the noble gas. As I have already said you that they does not chemically react with any other element, and that's why they are also rare in our nature, because maximum of our elements that are present in our nature, they are either metal and non-metal or metalloid. Metalloid, the quantity of metalloid is also very few in our nature. So the example of the noble gas is helium, neon, argon, and this kind of elements. Okay, after that, coming to the metalloid, they possess both the property of metals and non-metals. And what are their examples? Boron, silicon, arsenic. I guess you have heard this kind of names, right? Arsenic is very famous nowadays. Though boron, silicon, arsenic, and many others. So I have written etc. Now coming to the metal. You know what are metal? You wear rings, you eat your food in the metal containers, utensils, then your mother cook the food in the metal utensils, and there are many other uses of metals in our everyday life, right? And similarly, there are also uses of non-metals. Now we'll start with the metal. What are the metals? Like gold, silver, iron, aluminium, all these are metal, coming under metal. Why they are metal? Because they have certain characteristics. What are their characteristics? They are solid and strong. That's why we cannot easily break them. Otherwise, if it gets slipped from our hand, it will get broken easily. So they are solid and strong. They are lustrous, like they are glossy, shiny. Okay. Then they are malleable. What is this malleable stands for? Malleable means they are not easily broken, or they are, we can beat them and they can change the shapes. Okay. Other than that, they are ductile. Ductile means we can mold them and we can change their shape and we can convert them into thin wire. That is called ductile. And they are generally good conductor of heat and electricity. Now you have seen that wires are generally made up of metals. Why? Copper, aluminium, this kind of metals, because they are good conductor of heat and electricity both. Alright, then they have high melting and boiling point. Now maximum of the metals, they have high melting point, so they cannot be getting melted easily, and boiling point also. That's why we use them in our regular life, because if the temperature also rises in the atmosphere, they will not get easily melted or start boiling all of a sudden, right? And then they are sonorous. Like if I take a glass and I stung it with a fork, then it will start like making a humming sound, right? It will make sound. and stinging sound, and it will not get broken easily. That is what we call sonorous, that it makes sound, it makes tuning sound. Alright, now when we are going to talk about the non-metals, you have to keep in mind they are exactly opposite to the metals in general, because in both of these cases exceptions are existing. Alright, there are some exceptions to which are not lustrous. Some metals are there which are not lustrous, like sodium. Then some are non-malleable, some are non-ductile, like this. So in case of non-metals are in general, they are gases. They stays in the form of gases or solids. Okay, but there are also exceptions where the non-metals are present in the form of liquid also. Then they are soft. In generally, they are soft in nature. They are non-lustrous, means they are not shiny. Non-malleable, they cannot be beaten and transferred their shapes into another. They are brittle, they can easily be broken. Non-ductile, they cannot be converted and changed into a thin wire. That's why they are not used for wire and this kind of thing. Bad conductor of heat and electricity, they are generally used for coating kind of stuff, because they are bad conductor of electricity and heat, and we do not get shock and we do not get caught by the heat when we are using them as a coating or anything over the metals. Then they have low melting and boiling point. So they get easily melted and boiled fast. They are non-sonorous, means when we are striking them, they generally supposed not make any kind of stinging sound or tuning sound. And what are their examples? Like maximum of the gases and some chemicals which are used in laboratories, they comes under non-metal, like oxygen, hydrogen, chlorine, this kind of phosphorus. All this comes under non-metals. Okay, so these are the classification of elements which you have to, and the exceptions are given in the book. Just follow this out. I'm not explaining once it again. So these are all for this class. We are going to discuss in our next video about some of the more properties of the elements and compounds. So see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.